Hi, my name is Andrew Byrd, part of the Jefferson State Mortuary Science program, and I did my article on the secret about counselors and grief out of the Directors magazine, September 2016, by Dr. Jason Troyer. Uh, this article deals with counselors and their susceptibility in not knowing the process between grief and loss. Dr. Troyer says that most, if not all, of psychological, psychiatric, doctors, nurses, funeral directors, family counselors, and a lot of other counselors receive little or no formal training regarding grief and loss. And this in his article proves to be true. That many programs nowadays do not require a course on grief and loss. Troyer has his master's and doctorate degree in counseling psychology, and he says in his time of college that he received little, if not any, courses related on grief and loss. He knows of none or very, very little colleges that are accredited organizations in his professional field that requires a course on grief or loss. Some of those professional fields being nursing, people getting their doctorate, psychology fields, psychiatric fields, and of course some counseling. In his article, he also mentions that clergy aren't as up to date as we think on the process of grief and loss. Many of these professional fields turn to the funeral profession in determining a way to deal with loss and grief. Many of these professions, like nurses and things like that, turn to us thinking that we have the knowledge in grief and loss, and it is true, we do, but it's all passed down myths that we in the funeral profession receive from one another. And as Troyer says, it's passed down myths, and they're outdated versions of dealing with loss and grief. Clients tend to assume that we as funeral professionalists and other professions are well known with grief and loss. And in recent studies that Dr. Troyer goes on to in his article, that proves wrong. Many fields and professions aren't required to have a course on grief and loss. He goes on to say that most of them are outdated and they're just passed down myths. But later on in his article, he goes on to say that many educational programs are offering elective courses on grief and loss, some including Mount Hood Community College and Marian University in Wisconsin. They're one of the very few colleges now offering courses on grief and loss. However, it might seem that not all professions professionals have a knowledge of grief or loss, but when a client comes to you, any help that you can give them definitely goes a long way. In his article, he states there are 3 good reasons why funeral directors should care about loss and grief. The first one is it helps create opportunity to build relationships with other professionals that you might deal with, such as doctors, nurses, social workers, clients, and other professional organizations that deal with loss and grief, and helping them to build a better understanding of what all goes into it. It creates the second one is it creates opportunity to aid the bereaved party, because they're always seeking informational tips or help to deal with the grief and loss. In the second one, it goes on to say that being proactive, having informational packets, booklets, having an aftercare counselor, and having many things posted on social media would also help. And then finally, it helps protect the families that we might deal with as we serve. And being proactive in such ways as hiring a professional to come down and have a conference, if you will, or a seminar. Doing all these things will not only build rapport for the community, but it'll help you get a better understanding of grief and loss and what all goes into that. There are several good ways that this article really related to me, and being the fact that we are funeral counselors and we deal with grief every day. People coming to us seeking help, and this really struck me is when a parent or a loved one loses a child at a early age. It's hard to find the words to say, and kind of like Troyer says, it's, you hear from clergymen or older funeral directors like I have on what to say and what to do to comfort that family. And we've not really had the proper or required training in dealing with grief and what to say and what to do. So I strongly believe that we definitely do need a increase in educational programs, whether it be seminars or something, in the funeral profession to help us better to serve the families that we're serving, because they're coming to us in a time of grief. And we see this every day. Just grief in general, losing a loved one. It's hard to find the words to say to comfort them, and a lot of it goes back to the word of Jesus Christ and God and reading from the Bible. And of course, all that I've learned from pastors, ministers, and just older funeral directors. To go along with what Troyer says, at our funeral home, we actually have had a few grief seminars, and we actually do have an aftercare counselor. She has all the up-to-date information and packets, as Dr. Troyer has said, and he's up to date. She is up to date with that, and it stays in contact with the family throughout the first year after death. And then we had a doctor come in and talk specifically on grief a few times, and it was a very good turnout. Had very good feedback from it, and we're just in the process of trying to figure out better ways to better our knowledge on grief and loss to better serve the clients that we get at Sunset Funeral Home. And that's about it.